They finally sent it right after the holidays, when most people were distracted, tired, and not paying attention, and that single detail alone is why this Social Security alert matters so much. A notice dated December 26 is not random, it is not casual, and it is not something the Social Security Administration sends unless something important is about to change. For millions of Americans, this alert is directly connected to January 1st rule changes that can affect payments, eligibility, reporting requirements, and how stimulus-related information is treated going forward. If you receive Social Security, SSI, SSDI, survivor benefits, or any related assistance, this is one of those moments where ignoring a letter can cost you money while understanding it can protect your income for the entire year. The reason this feels urgent is because the calendar matters more to Social Security than most people realize. December 26th sits at a very specific point in the system. It comes after most annual payments are finalized, after internal recalculations are completed, and just before new federal rules officially activate on January 1st. The Social Security Administration uses this window to communicate changes that are already locked in but not yet active. That means these notices are not warnings about something that might happen. They are explanations of what is about to happen, whether people are ready for it or not. For many beneficiaries, the first reaction to seeing an SSA notice is fear. People worry that their benefits are being cut, delayed, or taken away. In reality, most December SSA notices are informational or corrective rather than punitive, but that does not make them less important. These letters often explain adjustments, confirmations, or required actions that determine how smoothly payments continue in the new year. The stress comes from not knowing what the notice really means, especially when it references January 1st changes and stimulus-related updates in the same message. One of the most common reasons SSA issues notices at the end of December is annual recalculation. Social Security programs are built around yearly thresholds. Income limits reset, work rules update, resource caps are reviewed. Even when benefit amounts remain the same, the rules that support those amounts may shift slightly. SSA must document these changes and notify beneficiaries in writing. December 26th is the cutoff point where these notifications are finalized and released. Another key reason is compliance. SSA operates under strict federal requirements that demand transparency and documentation. When a rule changes on January 1st, SSA cannot simply apply it without informing the people affected. The notice you receive is the legal record that SSA fulfilled its obligation to tell you what is changing and why. That is why these notices are often detailed, formal, and full of language that feels heavy. They are written to stand up in audits and appeals, not to be comforting or conversational. January 1st, rule changes can touch different people in different ways. For retirees, changes may involve benefit calculations, Medicare premium deductions, or tax-related reporting. For SSDI recipients, new work thresholds can affect how much someone can earn without risking benefits. For SSI recipients, income and resource rules are especially sensitive, and even small changes can impact monthly payments. SSA sends notices because these adjustments are not optional. They apply automatically unless corrected or appealed. Many people overlook that Social Security payments issued in January often reflect rules effective from January 1st, even if the deposit arrives weeks later. This creates confusion when someone sees a change in their payment and does not connect it to a December notice they barely skimmed. SSA tries to prevent that confusion by explaining changes in advance, but only if the notice is read carefully. The December 26 notice may also include verification requests. These are among the most important parts of any SSA communication. Verification can involve income confirmation, living arrangements, banking information, or continued eligibility questions. When verification is requested at the end of the year, it is usually tied to enforcement at the beginning of the new year. That means SSA expects the information before January rules are fully applied. Failing to respond can lead to delayed payments, temporary suspensions, or recalculations that reduce benefits until the issue is resolved. This is where many problems begin. People assume a notice is informational only and do not realize action is required. SSA systems are increasingly automated. When deadlines pass, the system does not wait for explanations. It applies default rules, which are rarely favorable to beneficiaries. That is why December notices carry more weight than they appear to at first glance. Medicare-related information is another major component of these alerts. Medicare premiums and coverage terms often change annually. SSA must explain how those changes interact with Social Security payments. For some beneficiaries, a higher Medicare premium means a slightly lower net Social Security deposit. For others, protections apply that limit how much premiums can increase. These details are usually included in the same notice because they take effect at the same time, January 1st. The mention of stimulus updates in SSA notices creates the most confusion and the most excitement. The word stimulus immediately makes people think of new checks, direct deposits, or surprise payments. In reality, SSA references stimulus-related information for several reasons, and not all of them involve new money. Sometimes SSA clarifies how past stimulus payments are treated under current rules. Sometimes it explains reporting requirements for relief funds. Sometimes it addresses how credits or assistance programs interact with Social Security eligibility. SSA does not administer every stimulus program, but it must explain how those programs affect Social Security records. For example, whether certain payments count as income, whether they affect resource limits, or whether they must be reported. This is why stimulus information often appears alongside January rule changes. SSA is trying to prevent errors before they happen, especially errors that could trigger overpayments or benefit reductions later. It is also important to understand that SSA notices are individualized. Two people can receive notices on the same date with completely different content. One notice may confirm an increase, another may explain why a payment stays the same, another may request documentation, another may simply provide updated rule explanations. The headline topic may be similar, but the personal impact depends entirely on the beneficiary's record. When you receive a December 26 SSA notice, the most important thing is to read it fully, not just the first paragraph. SSA letters often bury key information in the middle or near the end. Dates, dollar amounts, and instructions may appear after long explanations. Skimming can cause you to miss the one sentence that actually applies to you. Effective dates matter more than almost anything else in these notices. January 1st is the rule change date, but the payment impact date may be later. SSA often applies changes retroactively to the start of the year, meaning adjustments can appear in later payments. Understanding this prevents confusion and unnecessary panic when deposits look different than expected. Deadlines are another critical element. If SSA asks you to respond by a certain date, that date is not flexible unless you contact them. Responding early is always safer than waiting. SSA systems are overwhelmed at the start of the year, and delays become more common. Taking action as soon as possible protects your benefits. Scams increase dramatically during this period because fraudsters know SSA sends legitimate notices in late December. Official SSA communications do not demand immediate payment, do not threaten arrest, and do not ask for sensitive information through unofficial channels. Real notices direct you to official SSA accounts or provide clear instructions for contacting SSA through recognized methods. Understanding this helps protect you from fraud. For many people, the overall message of a December SSA alert is stability, not loss. It confirms eligibility, explains adjustments, and outlines expectations for the new year. The anxiety comes from uncertainty, not from the content itself. Once the notice is understood, most beneficiaries find that the changes are manageable and expected. January 1st, rule changes happen every year. They are built into the structure of Social Security. The December 26th notice is part of that cycle. It is SSA's way of closing one year and opening the next with updated information. When you see it in that context, it becomes less alarming and more practical. Stimulus-related updates, when mentioned, should be read carefully and cautiously. Do not assume new payments are guaranteed. Do not ignore reporting instructions. SSA includes this information to prevent mistakes, not to tease benefits. Understanding that distinction saves time and stress. Ultimately, the December 26th SSA Alert is about preparation. It tells you where you stand as the new year begins. It outlines what rules apply to you starting January 1. It gives you the opportunity to correct information, respond to requests, and avoid disruptions. The notice is not there to scare you. It is there to document changes and protect the integrity of your benefits. When people ignore these notices, problems usually show up later in delayed payments, confusing adjustments, or unexpected letters. When people read and respond appropriately, the new year starts smoothly. That is why this alert matters more than it seems, and why understanding it now can make the difference between peace of mind and months of frustration. Social Security is not just a program. For millions, it is stability. Every notice, every rule change, every update exists within that reality. The December 26th alert is a reminder that staying informed is part of staying protected. As January 1st arrives, knowing what has changed, what has stayed the same, and what is expected of you ensures that your benefits continue without interruption and without surprises.